Pressing record. There we are. We're on. Cliff, hello.
Good morning.
I was just admiring your bookcase. Never mind all the pleasantries we're all going to do. Your bookcase is very impressive. It looks like you've got manuals on there for stuff. The really big ones over in the corner.
Oh, they're the commentaries. Those ones. They're in. I was going to say they're in alphabetical order, but they're not. They're in Book of the Bible order. All the others are in alphabetical order of author. And then there's, more importantly, there's Humphrey on the top shelf. He's a puppet.
Oh.
Keeping an eye on us, so be careful.
So you live in a vicarage, because only vicarages have puppets, well-organised bookshelves that are clearly well-stocked, and commentaries. So who are you? What do you do pre-COVID in terms of work life, and who do you live with?
I live with my wife only. I have two grown-up daughters who are away, and I haven't seen them for weeks, or apart from on a screen. And so, I live with my wife. She's the priest in charge of St. Francis Church in Chandler's Ford.
Right.
And it's lovely down here, and the New Forest is not too far away. And so this is a vicarage, and Sarah's got a meeting. This is one of the spare bedrooms where all the books and stuff get stored.
Okay.
Got a meeting office downstairs for seeing people for wedding prep and all that kind of thing.
Okay. And your role?
And yes, and I'm a part-time prison chaplain at Winchester Prison, 3 days a week, and then the rest of my time is spent supporting my wife Sarah in the parish here, running youth group and supporting and leading services and preaching whenever she tells me to.
Do as you're told.
Works well. Well,
So
it's just that we. Yeah. Well, it's just 8 miles away, so we're still in posh Hampshire down here, as well as
very nice.
Winchester. Yeah.
Properly south. Winchester rings a bell for me, because your bishop is David Williams, isn't it?
Well, he's one of the suffragan bishops, and he's so the diocesan bishop is Bishop Tim Dakin.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, David Williams is a good bloke. Really like him.
I used to be a vicar up in Sheffield, and the vicar two before me was David Williams. So he is one of those names in incumbency heritage where you go, David Williams, absolute dynamo. So before COVID came along, BC, you part-time chaplain, at the beck and call of your parish priest who you're married to. So doing lots of stuff, very much practical stuff, in-person space stuff, rather than online stuff. COVID came along, and that moved you into a category of out there doing to inside shielding. So how did the shielding part come about, and how did your chaplaincy role shift?
So shielding came about because I have a thing called CLL, which is chronic lymphatic leukemia, which means that it's a white blood cell count goes up and up and up, and when it gets to a certain level, they start putting you on medication and they remove your spleen, and you have to be careful because your immunity is suppressed. My count was on its way up to the extent that by the time I was the age of 96, I would need my spleen removal and be on medication. So
there's no rush.
No rush, exactly. So, and completely asymptomatic and completely like, I'm fine, feel a fraud, why have I got to go home? Yeah. And but it is because of the immunity is suppressed in me. I'm barely on the scale to qualify as a CLL customer, but I am still on the scale, and they can't differentiate, and so I end up having to go home. So I didn't think because I was watch and wait, because I was so low down, I didn't think I was going to need to go home from the prison. Then there's a CLL community on Facebook that's been really helpful, and they've done a couple of webinars and all that kind of stuff, and they said everybody that's got it should shield. Oh, that means me. Okay. And so I spoke to my consultant. They sent me the letter, the NHS letter that everybody gets, or that most people get. And I took it into work and said, I've got this. They said, go home. That was on, which is really helpful. The prison have been really straightforward about it, and really supportive, and not trying to rush people back into work because they need them on, bums on seats or whatever. So they've been really good about that. So that means I'm at home. without, without a congregation of prisoners to and staff to support. So the prison were able to provide some kind of work for me to do, which is provide the support for a cohort of prison officers and staff in my situation. So I communicate with them regularly, send out an email to them weekly, phone them up, have a Zoom meeting that we've got one this afternoon, and just stay in touch with them. Some of them phone me, I phone some of them. There's only about 20, there's probably been about 30 in total, in and out. Some have gone back to work and all the rest of it. Some of them are in, one of them's got pretty advanced cancer, another one's pregnant, 3 of them are pregnant, another one's got a heart condition, that kind of thing. One of them's shielding because of their daughter, the whole range of people. And some are fine with it, and some are pretty anxious, and some are frustrated and angry, and so on. So it's provided a good community for us to come together over all of this rubbish. One of the best things is, of course, that out there are people losing their jobs and furloughed and all the rest of it, and we are all sent home with standard pay for now, anyway.
You're being well taken care of.
Yeah, well, ordinarily and normal, in as much as if you were, off sick, that would be the case.
Yeah.
So that's quite a blessing.
It's funny, we talked before I hit record, we were talking about the shielding community, who have one thing in common, which is they've all had the letter or the text in some people's cases with the whole, you have 12 weeks starting from now, and everyone's start date has been very different, so the 12-week end date is very much staggered. They've all had that real sense of kind of being tucked away in a corner of, the shielders are the vulnerable and therefore one homogenous group who we just overlook in daily briefings and what have you. But actually every single shielder has got a really different backstory and a different reason for being vulnerable to COVID. And some have felt really quite guilty about, they're the one who has to shield, but their household had to make that decision about, well, does that one person shield on their own in the house and the other members of the household come and go freely? Or does the entire household shield, and that then restricts the whole of household life? What did you and Sarah talk about in terms of your need to shield, but Sarah still being a parish priest, or have you shielded together?
We've shielded together, and we've talked about what it might look different, or how it might look different if, fortunately, we haven't had the rush of funerals and pastoral issues that she's had to deal with. Excuse me.
Non-COVID cough.
Yeah. So we have shielded together, but talked about what if the funeral comes in of someone that she feels she needs to do, and who was going to have the spare room, and who was going to have the bedroom nearest the bathroom, and how we're going to stay apart and all the rest of it. So it's a pain having to try and work all of that out. It's like, so who's good, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? Oh, it's horrible. But we haven't, yeah, it is. And we haven't had to cover that as of yet, anyway.
Not
so
yet.
It's been fine.
Not yet.
And I think we deal with it okay, because we've got enough space. I mean, so blessed with, a 4-bed vicarage in the middle of lovely Hampshire. I mean, it doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any easier to be able to put those risks, to mitigate those risks sensibly.
Now, unlike some of my other, victims, interview candidates, we are talking now as lockdown is beginning to ease, either by policy or by practice, and the shielding community is the narrative is shifting. I've noticed from, we're all in it together, everyone's locked down, it's not a problem, and we can weather the storm, to looking out of the window or on the news, and particularly looking on the news on television in terms of your prisoner community, all of us looking at the news and saying, hang on a minute, the world's going back to normal again, or it seems to be. What does that mean for us? And I think this is where shielders and your prison community have a similar narrative, although it's a different setting. I've got a 3.5 bedroom small cottage, and a prisoner's got a 12 by 12 cell. But our experience is similar in watching the outside world going back to normal and saying, in which case, why can't I? Why can't the prison community start using the gym again, or going back to work again? Why can't shielders go out to the shops and be very careful again? And I don't know whether your community and the prison have that similar narrative of, it just seems really unfair that we're not in it together anymore.
Yeah. From what I understand, obviously I'm not in the prison, so can't speak for what goes on daily, but I am supported by my boss, who contacts me and keeps me in touch with what's going on, and I'm in touch with the prison to pass it on to those, to the other shielders anyway. But from what I understand, the prisoners have been really supportive of the situation because they've seen it on their telly in the prison, and so they know that the streets are empty and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What the management team have been good at is communicating with staff on a massive WhatsApp group on a daily basis, and also with the prisoners, with notes going under their door regularly to let them know where they stand. And so long as they're informed, and so long as they're consistent, and I'm going to cough again. I should have brought a coffee in with me. So long as they're consistent, and so long as they're informed, and the guidelines remain consistent for the prisoners and the staff, then everyone knows where they are. So it makes it an easier thing to manage.
Yeah.
Not an impossible thing, and I can't imagine trying to work out who's in a cohort. You've got all the COVID issues to manage. Who's quarantined when they first come in? If a guy's been was convicted at the same time as another guy in the same offence, you've got to keep them apart. He's bullying him, you've got to keep them apart. And they say Boris has got a big job. Imagine trying to, network all of that safely within a prison, safely from a personal risk, bullying and, harm point of view, but also from a COVID, spread point of view. So it's a big matrix that they have to manage, and they don't always get it right because they're human. But Boris has always got it right. But obviously. You know what I mean? So so it's a challenge.
Well, that's a whole other conversation, not with the record button going, about politics and how top down has influenced bottom up, or been influenced by. There's a massive thing as well about mental health, and about, certainly for shielders, trying to mitigate physical risk against the possibility that mental health will just collapse because our world has got small, and our sense of value, maybe by politics or practice, has become small and overlooked. And there's that balance between physical health being protected and mental health not suffering as a result. And then we throw into the mix, as we're both ordained, where people of faith. And so I guess for some people, they would say, oh, your faith is a crutch, just get on with it. And for other people, they would say, no, having a faith must surely give you more hope, more confidence, more. How have you found faith and COVID and God's presence in all of this?
It's always a bit of a surprise to me and others how emotional I can get, being a sort of I've been a squaddy in the past. I was in the army for a few years, and so I'm a rough and tumble kind of guy, done a lot of sport and all that kind of thing, but find that I get more emotional than I used to. And so this has accentuated that to some extent. I find that there's Psalm 91, which is known as the soldier's prayer. And so it's not good, is it?
I'll pass you a glass of water before the screen, but
yeah,
I can't make a magic happen.
Not bring it.
Go on, Psalm 91. Why is it called the soldier's prayer?
Because it's one that offers the most, from what I can see, offers the most support and encouragement, that whilst others are falling down at your side, then you are under his wing and his protection. Okay. And there's a song by Sonic Flood called Psalm 91, which has become my anthem over recent weeks. And I just find that encapsulates the whole faith position for me, that it is all wrong, and yet God is still with us every step of the way. And if we tuck into him, he'll tuck into us. And if we can hand it over to him, we know that he will take it from there. And that's And this is where the rubber meets the road. If you mean that and you believe that, then now's the time. Step into that or step away. And not only, and that's not, and that is for me for now. And maybe I've had a couple of years at the prison where I've been able to encourage others in that, whilst it's difficult to understand that they've been stitched up, that they shouldn't be in there, and now they're being bullied where in there, and it's all unfair and all the rest of it. And I've always pointed to Jesus and gone, but God, you know.
Yeah.
We've got a massive cross with Jesus on it, a big bronzed one in the chapel in the prison.
Yeah.
Constantly, whenever I'm preaching in there or even chatting to others in there, and go, but what about what Jesus did for you right there?
Yeah, he gets it, he's lived it, he understands it, and he offers himself to you to be companion and yeah, fellow whatever. I think about the soldier imagery where you're in it together and you're a unit and you're a family and you watch each other's backs and you have that same experience to go through, same narrative, where when one person says I get it, the other guy goes I know you get it, yeah, rather than that sort of empathy sympathy thing. So you can point to Jesus and goes you experience this, he gets it, he completely gets it in that same way. Yeah. That's quite deep, isn't it? I might have to go and reread Psalm 91 and ponder that. How have you kind of coped with all the stuff? I know you live near a beach, but I keep seeing pictures of beaches covered in tourists and sand. So how have you kind of managed your way through the COVID stuff, and top tips for other people who are shielding?
Well, when I spoke to the consultant who sent me the letter back at the beginning of April, I was keen to let them know that I need to exercise. What can I do about that? And they said, well, if you're sensible, go out at the right time, then go on a bike ride. So we do that most days. I say my wife and I were due to do Land's End to John O'Groats on the 23rd of April for my 60th birthday. We were going to celebrate it. On my calendar, there was a reminder on, I think it was something like the 7th or 8th of June, and it said dinner at so-and-so restaurant. And that restaurant was at John O'Groats. Oh no, so we had to cancel it all. So we should have done that. But we didn't do that. So exercise is central to me and fortunately my wife. So we get out on the tandem quite regularly and the other bikes and keep exercise going. Sarah was born and bred in Jersey. We'd spent 15 years in Jersey before we were ordained in 2016. And we were both ordained at the same time. And so the beach and the sea is central to her being and less so for me. And so we're 28 miles, I think, from the nearest bit of beach here. Fortunately, it's stony. And if we go down there at the right time, then you've got a beach that's pretty empty. If you go when the weather's not so good, then it's even emptier. And it's easy for us to risk manage from our point of view. So if there's a crowd of people, just don't go near it. Or if people are over there, then go over there. And we take it on our shoulders to stay away from them. They may have a different risk or attitude to risk.
Yeah.
That's for them to manage. I'm going to get out of their way. Thank you very much. So it's been absolutely fine to go down there. We've only been a couple of times so far. To give the car a run out as well, by the way.
It's our poor car sitting on the driveway looking at us going, I'm going to seize up. Please
remember
don't seize
me.
up.
Yeah. And I've found that, so to stick with the top tips, as it were, so then exercise is pretty important. We've had to make sure that we keep the news off most of the time and have one dose of news a day, and to just make sure that doesn't, your whole world revolves around what on earth is being said in the news. I've found some good resources, plenty of resources online to continue to do theology over and above my daily readings and so on, and weekly cycle of church and evening prayer and youth group and stuff. So so to continue to press on and do more than just that, to get somebody else's input, and to continue to talk about. Fortunately, my wife and I are in the same boat. We're both ordained. We both get what it means to be a priest. We get what it means to be active and now not able to be, or to be differently active, and all of those kind of things. So we continue to talk it through. Got some good friends. I've got my boss at work's good at staying in touch, and the diocese of last week did a Zoom meeting for chaplains, and I've got a spiritual director, and just keep bouncing stuff off those people that are prepared to shut up and listen to me, being an extrovert and all. And I think that to take it on for myself or for ourselves as to what risk we're prepared to live with, and to how we're going to contextualize what the government are saying, what the CLL community are saying, what my consultant's saying, and then whether it's raining or not, and whether to go out, so to put all of those together. Should we now go and sit with everybody else on the beach? No. Should we go to this protest? No. But it is okay to go and ride on the bike on that road there at that time of day, because we know it's completely empty, so that's fine. And then it almost feels normal. You're just managing those risks around it,
Crumbs. So it's connecting brain, so the brain doesn't seize up. It's connecting body with the outside world, so that doesn't seize up. It's connecting your relationships, maybe in an online setting rather than a physical setting. And and if all those things are in place, then you are holistically in a healthier place to be able to then assess the risks, look at them without them overwhelming you, and then make decisions based on mitigation of risks, so that you can then survive and thrive, not just survive. Wow.
Yeah.
Grand. I shall try and take that on board. I'm going to write that down now. Try and do the same. Fabulous.
Looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, our time is nearly up, because we try and do just a half an hour thing, because I certainly get bored of my own face on screen, and I'm sure our viewers love watching our interview candidates, probably not me so much. So we're almost at the end of our time together recording, so I'm going to say thank you very much and stop recording, and then we'll say cheerio to each other away from the recording button. So Cliff, thank you so much for giving us your time and being willing to be here on screen talking about life, COVID and everything. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, Katie.